They might even pull away. They like you that much. And someone commented, okay, but will they come back? So I responded, what would you do if you liked someone so much, but you felt so much guilt and shame? Or if you felt that any emotional exposure felt like a threat? And someone's asking me, can I please explain this deeper? So I was going to say that this type of description here would be someone more difficult to attract, someone who might have borderline personality disorder, for example, or who claims to be in that realm, because such a person would feel a lot of shame, a lot of fear of abandonment, a lot of fear over loss of autonomy, but that's actually covering up for the fear of abandonment. Guilt, self-fulfilling prophecy of negative cycles, and emotional exposure feels like a threat. But it would be kind of wrong of me to say that this person is difficult to attract, because that's not necessarily true. That's just in the mind, and whatever is in the mind is what tends to come into fruition. So if I say this person's actually easy to attract, then it actually is more likely to be so. So I'm getting a little bit of an ick, even having that thought even pop up in my head at one point, thinking that this was difficult. But there are a lot of people who struggle with this type of stuff. So I'm going to go over what I think this means and how we can respond as to why someone will pull back even if they love you. I am talking from some experience, and I'm also talking from a lot of drama. So the primary reason that someone's going to pull away is because that person is not feeling safe, especially on an emotional level. So any emotional exposure feels threatening. Now, I am primarily talking about women, but this can also apply to men, just the same. Men are very emotional creatures. And so typically, if their emotions are being chipped away at, they can really feel that. And it's not the most amazing feeling, because sometimes your feelings are so big you don't even know what to do with them. If you scroll down my channel just a little bit, you'll see a video where I'm talking about Mr. Beast's latest video. And in that video, I talk about how the reason your ex is so mean to you is because they're just trying to convey how much pain they are in. In essence, your ex is wanting to pull away from you so much because they're in so much pain. So another reason someone can pull away from you, like an ex-partner, is because they're in a lot of pain. And if they are mean to you and they say nasty things to you, it can be because they're in a state of obliviousness. They don't really have enough self-awareness. But a lot of the reason is also because of this, pain. And there's often a pain-to-pain ratio. Pain versus pain ratio. So basically what this pain versus pain ratio means is if being away from you is a lot more convenient or easier or more satisfying, less painful than being with you, then the person is going to choose to be away from you. But if being away from you is more painful than being with you, then they're more likely to be with you. And this pain-to-pain ratio is one of the primary factors and motivators behind human behavior, behind our decision-making processes. If you would like to learn a little bit more about this, I have a pinned video at the top of my TikTok channel called The State of Your Relationship Depends on These Two Things. And these two things, one of them is this pain-to-pain ratio. The other is your hypnotic rhythm. But maybe another way of looking at hypnotic rhythm is just simply cycles. And these are always at play, and these can either be working for you or against you. It's just the laws of nature. You can't really escape this. And what bothers me is that a lot of people tend to think that someone who pulls away is narcissistic. Someone who is avoidant attachment style is a bad person, when really such people have big feelings themselves. And you have to have a strong stomach to be able to navigate through the nuance and the complexities behind why a person feels the way they do. We can't just say if they wanted to, they would, because that lets us off the hook and it puts all the responsibility on the other party. I literally just uploaded a bunch of pictures just now about this heart, and this heart is covered in ice, chilling ice. And my suggestion to thaw away at that heart is the best solution. You just put a little candle near the heart that's full of ice, and over time, the heart will melt. You're thawing away at it. You do not want to respond with intense retaliation just because the other person's heart might be cold, they might be pulling away, their heart might be made of stone, they might have their walls up, it doesn't matter if you're female or male. And in regards to this pain ratio, actually, this is why people put their walls up in general. And what I want you to do, this is why I asked this comment in the first place, what would you do if you felt so much shame, guilt, or perceived a lot of threats? The moment you are able to put yourself in the other party's shoes, you can start to understand on a much more empathetic level where they may be coming from. You're able to pull yourself out of your first-person mode and put yourself in a much more third-person perspective. So I ask you the same question. If there was someone you kind of did like, but you refused to enter into a relationship with them, what would it take for you to say yes to that arrangement? You can pretend to make the scenario much more worse. You can imagine some nerdy weirdo is hitting on you. What would it take for you to fall head over heels with that person? So when you ask yourself that, what would it take? You're then analyzing the bars to entry. Bars to entry are the threshold or the meeting point, the factors, kind of like when you notice yourself falling in love with someone else. How is it that you ended up falling in love with that person? Typically, the reason we fall in love with someone else is because a lot of factors have been met on our end. You may notice that the other party didn't really necessarily do anything to make you fall in love with them. It was actually you yourself who fell in love with that other person. They didn't necessarily do anything per se. You fell in love with them. You fell in love with them because you felt certain emotions. This is why I say that love cannot be earned, because love is given at the discretion of the giver. If you love someone, you have given that at your own discretion. The other party didn't necessarily do anything per se to be able to receive that love. You just gave it according to your own discretion, and that's how love actually operates. They can meet a certain threshold, and whatever that threshold is, it kind of is up to you, but whether or not they actually reach that threshold, which is generally subjective, you will give out love at your own discretion. Another reason someone might hold back, another major reason, is because of capacity, and also knowing or not. So this is a little bit of a different realm here, but capacity is someone's ability to reciprocate. They might not have the means or the ability to be able to reciprocate. They might not even know how to reciprocate. And this is why a lot of people who pull back, they're not trying to avoid you sometimes, you know. They're just taking on board whatever is being said, and they go about their day. And if they so happen to think about something good, then they'll bring it to your attention. I have a bunch of family members, and we have group chats, and you know, we don't always participate in these group chats in a reciprocal way. But if ever there is some reciprocation, it's usually because something important is happening. And I actually talk about this in my love triangle course that I have pinned up on my page, where basically you need a reason to be in touch with each other. And so one of the major reasons someone might pull away from you, even if they love you, is because they don't have a legitimate reason to be with you. And I talk about this in my love triangle course. You need a legitimate reason to be together, because if you don't have a legitimate reason and you're literally just trying to force contact, you're trying to force some type of emotional connection when there's none, the whole thing's going to fall apart, and this person eventually turns into your ex. They end up falling in love with someone else with a much more natural connection. And this is what I touch up on my love triangle process. If you'd like to check that out, feel free to get that in the link of my description of my bio, because I teach you what I do in real life when attracting a partner. I suck at Hinge and Tinder. I've never had any success with that stuff, but in real life and even online, not Tinder, I've had success attracting partners because I always have a reason for it. And if you'd like to learn how I go about doing that, feel free to grab a copy of my course. It's short, sweet, to the point. I really hope this helped. And check out those other video recommendations I suggested if you'd like to learn more.